Welcome to week number two. Week one's all done, where we just looked at the idea of culture as a whole. And we start off with that because if we're going to understand humanities, like the study of human beings, our interactions, and all that stuff, we got to understand the culture, aka what makes those areas, those time periods, those people special. It's your beliefs, it's your way of life, it's your values, it's what you eat, it's how you talk, how you write. Basically, culture is everything, and it's what makes us so, so special. And so, with this humanities class, we're going to be looking at the culture and how it's reflected in the arts. So, we're going to just kind of break it down week by week. As you can see, we start from prehistory and go a long time. And so like every other week, so the even weeks would be talking about what the area's culture, the time period's culture is. And the second or the odd weeks would be the arts, kind of like how did they arts, and we'll just make those connections in the discussions. We'll look at why those arts make sense compared to those cultures and just how everything works. So let's get started with week number two, prehistory. Now, prehistory is interesting because it was before, there it is, before written records. In other words, it was in a time period where nothing was written down. So any information we have is based on stories, based on word of mouth, and based on the little arts that we did find. So you can imagine that when we say this is what it was, it's kind of hard to pinpoint, prove, and have exact ideas. So that gives you so much opening for your definition on what this culture would be like. So prehistory is kind of like the start of humans, where some scientists and historians say about 2.5 million BCE to about 1,200 BCE-ish. We'll kind of talk about why that ish might be there and kind of where your definition of it is. It covers the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. It was a time of new and like because we were inventing everything. We were moving human knowledge forward, and the evolution of us was making leaps and bounds because every single day, something new would arise and new promotion would come from it. So already you can kind of start the first tick of the culture idea is it's all about the new, all about the growth, all about beginning. So the Stone Age, pretty simple, stone tools. The ages are kind of described thanks to what was the main use in the tools. Multiple species of humans were going on during the Stone Age. Caves or crude tents were the homes. They were hunter and gatherers, nomadic. They created fire during this time, huge invention for us. Bones or stone tools were the things that we use. You can see the picture up there. And survived the Ice Age, so lots of change. So for a long time, it was a very simple lifestyle. It was nomadic, so on the go. You were following the food, you were following the herds. If you couldn't find it, you didn't need it, type of thing. Creating that fire, that's a huge invention in the fact that we now could cook the food better. We could now warm ourselves, so it wasn't like we had to absolutely stay in the warmth or maybe get into that very cold areas. Then around 10,000 BCE to 8,000 BC, we start settling down. Small village. Now, I'm talking about not that many people because you couldn't feed that many people, but villages kind of started to pop up. People started to not so much move as much. Animal husbandry started to show. We started to be able to go, ooh, these are the plants that grow well here. So those are the ones we're going to use. And all of a sudden, it's that beginning ideas of, I don't want to follow the food. I don't want to go everywhere. Let's just kind of work it for us. And the tools got a little bit better, and the homes got a little bit better. Then, as the times change a little bit, and growth, like I said, doesn't happen overnight, but now all of a sudden we hit the Bronze Age, about 3000 BCE to 1300 BCE. Metalworking. Like I said, the early ones was just we found a rock, we started hitting things with the rock. We have our bones, so we're going to start carving some things out of the bones to make it fit our lives better. New inventions in this metalwork were the plow and the earliest forms of the wheel, allowing us to just like break up the ground, allowing us to put our mark where we wanted to stay. Government, laws, warfare, new concepts were sweeping the world. Mesopotamia and Egypt arise during this Bronze Age. One of the things where you have to stop and think is, does this still count as prehistory? Because the first forms of writing start around a little before 3000 BCE. So if we have writings and prehistory is defined as the time before writings, is this still prehistory? Now, that's a question that you can ponder where, some of the wording that we have in there, we don't know the majority of it. So, while yes, we still have writing, but we don't have the answers we think we have or we know we want because we can't read it. Like if I gave you a how to pass this class in a language you've never heard of before, it doesn't really matter that you have it or not because you're not going to be able to use it. And so, is this area prehistory? I'm going to say to an extent. And that's my opinion. You might have a completely different idea. And that's the best part about history, about humanities, is because each of these time zones, each of these time periods, these eras can be defined with very different dates based on your perspective, your idea. And that's why it's so important for you to kind of bring in some of that evidence to back it up. And when you answer the question, what was the prehistory culture like? You, as long as you explain it well and promote your answer, you add it to history. And the final age was the Iron Age, about 1300 BCE to 900 BCE. So right before Greece and Rome really started to rose up. Forges rose. Now metalworking is becoming very good, more precious than gold. So now all of a sudden we can build things sturdier. We can add to our weaponry. We can add to our idea. And because iron is at a higher temperature than bronze, they needed those forges. But once they realized that, it became a lot easier than the bronze. They had a lot better time making the tools, and agriculture now is booming. Better tools, better homes, better ideas, bigger homes, bigger tools, bigger ideas, and they are starting to grow. And that's the culture in the nutshell, or in the main ideas. Like I said, you can see what each time period kind of is. You can see what it's all about. So in your research, I need you to start thinking, what are you wanting to piece together? How are you going to say, yes, this is prehistory and this is what they did? If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, have fun. Good luck.